Good evening. The Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King, 39 years old and a Nobel Peace Prize winner, and the leader of the nonviolent civil rights movement in the United States, was assassinated in Memphis tonight.
We've got some difficult days ahead, but it really doesn't matter with me now, because I've been to the mountaintop.
On April 4th, 1968, Dr. Martin Luther King, Jr. was killed during his stay at the Lorraine Motel in Memphis, Tennessee. But his voice was never silenced.
Like anybody, I would like to live a long life. Longevity has its place. But I'm not concerned about that now.
Martin Luther King, Jr.'s mission was to bring people together and create what he called the beloved community, a world of peace between all people and all nations. Perhaps this was an ambitious dream, something nearly impossible, but nonetheless, it was a blueprint designed to guide humanity in the right direction. I have to say, however, in the last few years, it appears that we derailed, that we've forgotten all about the dream of Martin Luther King, Jr. And so now we must take some time to ask ourselves, how did we get here? I'm Martin Luther King III, and with me today are my wife and partner, Andrea Waters King, and our daughter, Yolanda Renee King. We wanted to take this opportunity to share our thoughts with you on the legacy of my father, Martin Luther King, Jr., as the world reflects on his life and leadership this April.
We greet you today from the United Nations, the world's best hope for creating the beloved community that Dr. King envisioned for all humanity.
I come to say to you this afternoon, however difficult the moment, yes, sir, however frustrating the hour, it will not be long. Yes, how long? Not long. Yes, sir. Because no lie can live forever.
Violence against women and girls, human trafficking, reactionary policies against reproductive rights, unbridled patriarchy, and all forms of discrimination against women continue to plague almost all of our communities.
My grandfather and grandmother devoted their lives to creating the beloved community. But today, more than 700 million people still live in extreme poverty, surviving on less than $2 a day. That's 10% of the world's population. And many who are hurting are children like me. That is an injustice.
We've reached a point in the history of our world when it is painfully obvious that something isn't right, when we have to say enough is enough. Enough of the division, enough of the hatred, enough of the misdirection, of the dangerous half-truths and whole lies. In America, you can ask anyone, and they will tell you that it feels like our country is coming apart at the seams. Seams that were stitched together by a lot of sacrifice and goodwill, promises, as well as oppression and exploitation, and sadly, genocide and slavery.
Now, more than ever, we must reflect on Dr. King's dream, because this is an election year, and this is truly the most critical election of our lifetimes.
Our democracy is at stake. Our sense of decency and fairness is at stake. The soul of America is at stake. In our nation, voters are being suppressed. Immigrant families are being torn apart. Police brutality is devastating countless neighborhoods. Many people are living in poverty.
So every single one of you who can vote must participate. Vote for those who lost their lives to gun violence. Vote for those who are suffering from environmental injustice. And vote for all the children who simply can't vote.
Now, I'm reminded that in the late 60s, Dad stood right outside of this building, leading a movement opposing the Vietnam War. He always stood up for what he believed was the right thing to do. He told us that the ultimate measure of a human being is not where one stands in times of comfort and convenience, but where one stands in times of challenge and controversy.
There comes a time when one must take a position that is neither safe, nor politic, nor popular. But he must do it because conscience tells him it is right.
So now is the time that we learn to love again. A love that seeks nothing in return. You love someone if they're old, you love them if they're young. You love them if they're rich, you love them if they're poor. You love them if they're black, you love them if they're white. You love them if they're Native American, you love them if they're Hispanic American. You love them if they're African, you love them if they're Asian. You love them because you know that God calls you to embrace that kind of love. And that's the kind of love we need to have in our nation and really throughout our world.
I may not get there with you, but I want you to know tonight that we as a people will get to the promised land.
It seems to me that that is the challenge of all of us individually and collectively to create the beloved community throughout the world. We have got to somehow become the best of who we are.